Many customers that I talk to already have processes in place for what I'm about to walk you through. And that's the management of orphaned apps. So as users leave the organization, what should the IT function do with the Power Apps and flows that that particular user is an owner of? A lot of the customers that I talk to use email to manage this process. So they'll have implemented a Power Automate flow that detects orphaned apps and then sends an email to that person's line manager, or to that account's line manager, I should say, and asks them what to do. Now, again, that's usually where the process ends. So now a lot of onus is put on that line manager to decide, or to correspond with IT to organise essentially what is really one of two decisions. So you would either delete the app or the flow, or you would reassign it to somebody. So what I want to walk through is an example or a demonstration of approaching this in a slightly different way. So you can see on the screen I have an account, Miriam Graham's account, and I've disabled it. And before disabling, I set myself or my own account to be Miriam's line manager. Now Miriam owns a couple of Power Apps in my default environment, and I'm going to now walk through a flow that I've put together. Now, this is an implementation much like probably any other one you've seen, where it runs on a schedule. So in this instance, I've got it running once a week, and what we're going to do is get all of the apps in a particular environment, and then start looking for the account and checking if the owner's account is disabled or not. I've limited this to the personal productivity environment, or the default environment. A lot of the customers I talk to now have the concept of using the default environment for what they're classing as personal productivity, and these are apps with a limited number of users or a limited use case. They're limited by the number of connectors that are available. They may, for example, only have a SharePoint, email, and approvals enabled. The idea being is that it's not, it's still allowing your maker community to build apps, but because you're restricting what they can and can't do, you should be limiting or reducing the chances of an enterprise app being built there. And a lot of customers also implement pretty proactive governance and administration. So I've limited it to the personal productivity environment. So what I do is I get all of the apps and start iterating through them one at a time and checking if the account is disabled. So this is the account enabled property. So if it's set to false, essentially, then we know that the account's been disabled. We then get that user account's line manager, and we send the line manager an adaptive card in Teams. Now, why Teams? Quite a nice segue into it, actually. So if you recall right at the beginning of this, I was talking about many processes being heavily formed around emails being sent to various people in the organization, which is fine. But in conversations I've had where email is involved, especially in the last 12 or so months, the uptake has been pretty low. So in the case of something like this, where we're asking a line manager what to do with one of their direct reports, apps and flows, they've had it's taken a long time for that to be completed. And again, talking from experience of talking to customers, we find that users respond to IM messages much faster. So why not explore that opportunity and use adaptive cards to ask them to make a decision, ask the line manager in this instance to make a decision straight away. So that's what we're going to send an adaptive card, and then depending on what the manager recommends, we have a couple of options. Now with orphaned apps, it's pretty obvious what the options are going to be. One is going to be to delete it. So we have that here. We've set it as a I'll show you on the implementation in a bit. But basically, if the line manager recommends that that the app is deleted. We then use the Power Apps for admins connector, and we delete the app, and then we let the line manager know. If it fails to delete, then we send a message to the admin team channel, and I'll talk about the team setup in a moment. So that's removing the app. The second option is that the line manager wants to reassign the app to somebody else. So what we do is we ask them to provide the email address of the new owner. We look up that email address, get the user profile so that we can access the ID of the new owner. And then we let the new owner know that they are now the new owner. So let's run through it. So as I said, we've got a couple of flows, a couple of apps. There are two. There's one called Tailspin Staff Planner and Northwind's Account Team. These are, both apps in the default environment. And as I'm the line manager, we would expect to see some activity. Now, whilst this is running, let's talk through Teams. And again, this is all based on conversations and running through demonstrations and stuff. So one thing I find, specifically in the last several months, where there's been a quick adjustment to using Teams, is that the Power Platform element of a customer is now using Teams for their center of excellence, their COE, and they seem to be setting up channels for each function of the COE. So that's what I've done here. I've set up an admin channel for admin related information. I have a champions channel and a security channel, and that's what we're going to probably be using in parts of this flow. So you can see I'm the line manager of Miriam Graham, as I explained at the beginning of this demo. So I've received an adaptive card to say that this is the app that Miriam owns and her account's been disabled. What are you going to do? Or what would you recommend that we do? Now I have a couple of options. I might decide to do nothing because I might not know enough about the app to make the decision. So I can say nothing. And then when the flow runs again, I'm going to receive this notification. But it gives me some time at least to make that decision. This is the other app that Miriam owned. Again, there's no description, but I might know about this app and I might decide, actually, we're going to reassign that to me. So I put in my own email address here. And click submit. Now, with some luck, we should see that the flow has been told for the first instance, anyway, that that I wanted to reassign it, and I've received another notification to say that I have nominated myself essentially as the new owner of this app. So if I was to go into Power Apps now and refresh the screen, then hopefully I would see the app as being assigned to me. There we go. So you can see that now I'm the owner of that app, so I can decide what I want to do with it, and I can continue the ownership of that app. Now the deletion, let's go through and run this again, and we'll select to delete the app. So it might be that a couple of weeks has passed and I now know that the other app that Miriam was working on is not something that we need to keep. So I've received the notification to say, that's the Northwind's Accounts Team event. We don't need that. I can say delete it, submit, and now the app will be removed. So again, you can see I've received a notification to say we've removed the following app from the personal productivity environment. So that's essentially it. So just a quick summary. We have channels set up for notifications. So where there's a requirement to let the admin team know, we would post a message in the admin channel. The flow itself, it's relatively easy to run through. If we quickly walk through the logic. So it's set up to run once a week. Again, I don't know how frequently you do in your organisation, but it's taken, if you already have like the COE starter kit, for example, if you have that installed already, then you don't necessarily need to use this connector. You could just go directly to the Power Apps app table and look up all of your inventory information there. But essentially what we're doing is we're iterating through the apps, checking if the account is disabled. If it is, we look up the line manager, we send an adaptive card and wait for a response. And depending on what the line manager responds, we have a few options. We have one to remove the app, and build in a tiny piece of error handling there. I mean, bear in mind, one thing to bear in mind with this is, and again, this is why this is an example and not a production implementation. This can time out. So if the user doesn't respond within a day, then you could probably add in some parallel activities there to then follow up again. Maybe send another adaptive card, or maybe send an email. Have something to fall back to. But bear in mind, this is just a pretty simple walkthrough of how to handle the orphaned apps procedure. So we can remove the app. We know that's working. We've seen that, and we can reassign it. We've also seen that you can pass in the email address of somebody, and that you then let them know. I mean, you could make a far nicer message to be sent to the user in your own environment, to give it some nice branding or whatever. But yeah, hopefully this is of use.